Hey, what up guys? It's Caleb here, and it's been almost 4 years now since I first started making YouTube videos, putting my face up on the internet and all that. And I remember the first video that I made was the video that I talked about how did I survive as a freelance graphic designer. And the reason why I made that is because I saw another video from a very popular YouTuber called Mike, and he basically advises viewers not to be a freelancer, and because freelancer cannot make money and you cannot pay for your expenses and just do freelancing on the side and all that. And at that time when I was watching that video, I was already a year and a half I think into the whole freelancing thing. So I made that video, and it's been such a long time now, and I think especially after I have my YouTube channel, I heard from a lot of other designers and you guys just tell me about your freelancing story. So I would say I'm quite a lot more educated or know about this area and aspect, and that's why I want to kind of sum up the whole kind of my career as a freelancer for about 5 years now into this one video and tell you guys 5 reasons that I think why most freelancers fail and how do you survive being a freelancer. And I think especially during this time right now, the pandemic, and a lot of company has been moving their workforce to online, right, work remotely. So I think the gap between a in-house designer or just an in-house person and a freelancer remote, it's very less than before. So a company has a lot more reason to hire a person remotely freelancing. So I think if you want to tap into the whole freelancing game, that may be the time to do that, but you need to know how does it work and all that, right? So I think hopefully this video will kind of help you to avoid some traps of being a freelance designer or freelancer in general. It doesn't have to be design. So these are the points that I'm going to be talking about this in this video, and I think all of these points are pretty important, so you don't want to miss it, you don't want to skip. And let's first talk about, the first one is, you just don't have a very compellingly good portfolio. And by compellingly good, I don't mean that you don't have a good portfolio. I just mean that, there's a difference between a freelancing portfolio and a full-time designer portfolio. And for full-time designer portfolio, you may be focusing on, one project for the span of a couple of years, right? If you're working in a startup, you're probably working on that one product for a very long time. And you may be very, very focused on some specific details about that project, right? Like one feature, you may spend like 2 months to figure that out. I'm not saying that that is a bad thing. That may be very good if you're looking for another full-time job that can apply the similar skill and focusedness on the other project, right? For example, if you want to work for big tech like Apple and Google, they may love people like that, right? Because you'll be focusing on an aspect of the entire product for a very long time, so that may work very well, right? But for freelancing, it's a little bit different. So think about, if I'm a client, I'm looking for a freelancer, right? I may want to hire that freelancer for a couple of months, maybe half a year maximum, to help me to figure out this particular thing, or to just work on a product, right? Building an MVP, or building websites, right? Like illustrations and all that. So the mindset is pretty different, and I would say most of the clients that when they're looking for a freelancer, they would like to see what type of work has they done before. And if you look at the Dribbble in the top 10, those designers, they have like hundreds, 200, 300 projects on their portfolio, right? And these are the people that people see that as very experienced, right? So it seems that the more good quality product or project you have on your portfolio, the more experience you seem. So that is just a trend, that is just a thing where, a difference between freelancer and full-time designer. So that when you are planning your portfolio, you may want to plan it differently, right? When I'm talking, let's say with the dentist, right, they will ask me, have you have any experience on building out health tech products, right? If I do, then the chances of me being hired is a lot higher. So the more stuff that you have seems to be more experience that you can show to your potential employer. So you may want to plan your portfolio wisely. Don't put all of your eggs into one basket, right? Like think about focusing on your attention on different products, different things as well, and just make your portfolio seems more rich. And that is what I would put it. And also another thing that I want to say about your portfolio point as well, I think this may apply more to Illustrator or some other aspects, right, is you have to make sure that your product or your work that you do has a market fit. And I made a video and talk about this before, and I think it's pretty important that there's a difference between a designer and an artist, right? So you want to make sure that your product, or the thing that you make, your work, your design work can sell. And I have a link down below to link it to that video. So if you want to listen to this point more, you can check out that video as well. So going to the second point that we'll talk about is you don't charge enough for your projects, right? I think this one is very common for people that are just getting into freelancing, right? Like we don't just charge enough, right? We don't know what to charge, we don't charge enough. So think about if you normally you would make let's say $50,000 per year as your yearly revenue, right? But now when you're getting freelancing and people ask you, hey, how much do you charge for helping me to build this website, right? Then you may say $1,000, I can charge $1,000 to build a website for you, right? So if you charge that, then that is great, $1,000 in your pocket. But just think about how many websites you have to make up $50,000 per year, right? Which is 50 websites that you have to make, and that is a lot of websites, and that is a lot of clients that you have to go out and meet and get them to be your client. So that is very time consuming. It's just not feasible as a freelancer, right? So I would say that how to know if you're charging enough or not, I would say that I can't give you a benchmark, and especially when I always preach about charging per project, but one thought is you should always charge more than what you used to get paid as a full-time employee. So for example, if you used to get paid let's say $35 per hour, if you're full-time, then you just kind of divide it by your hourly rates, right? Let's say $35, and now when you go out freelancing, you should charge at least a double of that, right? So you should charge at least $70 per hour, and that is the money that you should be charging. And I promise you that based on 5 years of my experience, then most companies, they're funded, they're much more willing to spend that money on a quality freelancer, right? So they will have no problem paying a double than their full-time employee, because one, they spend a lot less time to source the talents, because hiring process takes a long time, and also they don't have to go through all this engagement, taxes, filing to the government and all of these things, right? So there's a lot less engagement for them to hire a freelancer. So sometimes people are much willing to pay more for a freelancer. So make sure that you charge more than what you usually get paid as a full-time employee. And I think if you don't get $70 per hour as a freelancer, if nobody willing to pay you $70 per hour as a freelancer, then which means that you're probably not ready to be a freelancer yet, right? So one thing that I would task is just go out and just trying to get some freelance work for yourself. And when people ask you how much do you usually charge, you just say $70 per hour. And if they say no, one is you may be talking to the wrong person. But if you're talking to a funded company that has millions of revenue, they don't willing to pay you $70 per hour, then which means that you're not ready yet. So if you're not ready, then just go back to a full-time job. It's a lot easier for you to prepare yourself and to learn. And when you're ready, if you make $70 and more, then that is the time that you're ready. You're ready. You can go out and get a freelance client. Just start this freelance gig, right? So $70 is a minimum, I would say. Just make sure that you charge more than that. And I have a lot of video talk about pricing, so you can check those video out as well. So third one is, you suck at marketing. And I think, marketing is definitely the most important thing for many different aspects of life, right? So think about if you are going to meet a girl, then you're trying to sell yourself to that girl, right? So you want to sell your personality, whatever, so that girl would like to date you. So I think there's a lot of things that does with marketing. So it doesn't matter if you're running a business, if you're doing everything, right? So marketing is very, very important. I think even if you are the best designer in the whole world, but nobody knows about you, right? Then you still cannot survive as a freelancer. So, or just cannot run a business or sustain your lifestyle. So you have to know how to do marketing, right? So marketing, when I'm talking about marketing, just think about what are the ways that you're gonna get clients, right? Like how do people find you and how do you find people? So you really have to figure out your sales funnel, right? So you have to figure out what is your inbound funnel, what is your outbound strategy. So inbound could be like people that are coming into you, right? Like looking for you to work for them, right? So these are inbound. So it could be, having your portfolio on Dribbble could be one way for inbound, and also like Dribbble, Behance, working, not working. So people can know about what you do, right? So that is inbound. Outbound could be like cold emailing, could be outbound, right? And also going on job sites could be outbound to look for work. So you really have to figure out this kind of strategy to make your business or your freelancing gig be sustainable. Without that, it's just super hard. So you really have to figure this out. And I believe that as a designer, you're not taught to do this. And before you even start freelancing, right, you have to have a plan for all of these things, right? Like how many email do I send out per week to like generate X amount of leads, stuff like this, right? You really have to figure out, the whole business thing about being a freelancer. And getting to the fourth point is you don't know how to use leverage. And when I'm saying leverage, right, like it's not fancy word, it's actually applied in many different areas in life, right? Think about when you are buying a property, right? You're buying your house. You don't usually pay with cash, right? Like you usually pay the down payments and then borrow the rest from the bank, and that is how you're using leverage, right? And I think in a sense it's very, very similar to your design business or freelancing gig, where you don't know something, you don't have something right now, but then you borrow it from somebody else. So for example, when a company come to you and they need a website design and also a logo design, but you're not a logo designer, right? So how do you use leverage? You use leverage is when you know there's a need for that, then you reach out to another person and borrow that person's skill to generate the work for you, so you pay them back later, and that is how you use leverage other people's talents, right? You can build a big pool of people with different talents, then you can take bigger projects. And I would say once when you know this, right, you can make a lot more, you can really greatly increase your revenue when you knew this kind of thing, right? So don't say no to your clients, just say that, I have a team to handle that for you. So don't worry, we'll take that, we'll do the work for you. And for example, right, I do, build websites, but if the client's looking for WordPress, right, I don't do PHP, so I will hire a PHP engineer to help me to do that part, and I'll pay him, let's say 50% of the revenue, then I make 50% myself for not doing anything at all. So every year I make about 20 to 30% from this kind of leverage, and that actually works, so make sure that you use that. And lastly is, you quit too easily. So you are a quitter, right? Things happen, then you feel that, this is not working, then you just quit. And I remember the first time that I get into this freelancing gig, I talked to my dad about it, and my dad basically just said that, just give yourself half a year to try it out. Don't quit yet, just half a year and see if you like it. If you don't, then, go back to working full time, right? And I will say that, if you just quit after the first 2 months, it's just so short period of time that you don't even have enough time to kind of test the theory, right? Whatever you plan out, if you have all the quality that I just mentioned, right, then give yourself time to see how this works. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but you just have to have enough time for it, right? I remember, the first time is, I would say even like after 5 years, right, I have a pretty big pool of client base. I will still go by month or 2 months that don't really have a lot of work, right? So times like this is really testing your patience, right? Testing your tolerance, and it could be very disheartening, right? Do you just quit and go back to full time, or do you just stick it through, right? So I would say that, sometimes if you just stick it through, you can make it to the promised land. And I would say that, 5 years now, I don't have 1 year that I did below 100K, even though sometimes I have months and months that I don't have work, and then like the other 3-4 months I have so much work that I don't have enough time for it, so I have to hire somebody else to do the project for me. So sometimes things does happen, so you just have to have enough time and have enough faith for this kind of thing to kind of work out. And that is pretty much all the tips that I have and all the reasons that I think people that fail at freelancing. And now, if you want to start freelancing, you kind of know how this whole game works, and you have kind of a framework in mind. And hopefully this video is going to help you out with that. And if you like the content, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel as well. Or if you're a freelancer, I'm talking about something that, something wrong, or you don't agree with me, definitely leave it in the comment section below. I'm happy to have kind of a discussion. I believe that this channel is not just me talking about my techniques, right? It's more like a conversation that you guys have with me, so I can learn a lot from you guys as well. So let me know, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.